This is Fountain Pendulum. I've got some Alchemy ink here for us to check out together. I've had it for several weeks, so I have been using it in several fountain pens so we can talk about the performance. But first of all, let's take a look at the product in general. So this Alchemy ink is made by Endless, who is a fairly new company and has had some really awesome offerings as far as paper, especially, that people have really enjoyed, like the Endless Recorder. But what caught my attention about this Alchemy ink is the uniqueness of the bottle design. And they've really beautifully designed it. It has a really lovely shape and taper to it, as well as a brass cap. So it was the bottle design really that kind of intrigued me to check out this ink and want to get one for myself. Now it came in 4 different colors to start off with. There's red, green, blue, and a gray. And looking at the color options, I was definitely for the red. So this is Drops of Mars. And I've already actually swatched it, so I can share that with you now. And we'll be swatching it together as well on 2 different papers. The swatch paper that it came with, and also on my coloring system. So that'll be interesting to see on 3 different papers how it looks a little bit differently. So let's talk about the packaging first of all. So we have this lovely glass bottle that it came in. It's 60 milliliters or 2 ounces. And again, that's the main reason that I got it. And this bottle is designed with this kind of shape on the bottom so that it can twirl, which I think is a fun and kind of unique and playful design. And therefore, they have included with your bottle this cork that you can rest your ink on and twirl it to your own enjoyment. And then on the opposite side is an indented part in this cork coaster where you're to place this to help stabilize it when you're inking. So that's that. Let's take a look at all the details of this. Is a totally new company, so I think kind of going over some of these details would be of interest. Here is the box, Alchemy Fountain Pen Inks, and again, this is by Endless. So Drops of Mars, lost in cosmic echoes, and alchemists unearthed Mars's particles, weaving magic elixirs from stardust. And again, this is 60 milliliters or 2 ounces. And I'll try not to blind you as much as possible with the bottle. Meet the alchemist's rotating bottle. Crafting arcane wonders, the alchemist birthed a bottle that spun, dancing to its own mythical rhythm, a blend of art and enchantment. 1 Alchemy ink bottle, 1 cork base, designed in Madras, made in India. This is Canadian, by the way. The price. Color, dark red. Sheen, no. Shading, low/no. Suitable for fountain pens and dip pens. Periodically flush your fountain pen with clean water to remove residual ink. Our ink is formulated to be gentle on nibs, preserving the delicate components of your fountain pen and extending its lifespan. So there you have it. It's well packaged inside, so I thought it was very secure and stable. And when you first receive the bottle, it actually has this rubber stopper in it, and like that's what it came with to seal the bottle instead of the brass, and the brass cap came on the side. So I think that's actually written here. Every bottle is individually handcrafted by glass blowing. There may be some differences in the form between each bottle due to the same, which makes each bottle is truly unique. Fountain pen ink bottle is sealed with a removable travel seal to contain any potential leaks during transit. Kindly use the wipe along to open it securely. Feel free to dispose the seal, but we recommend keeping it in case you wish to travel with your bottle in the future. So I think that's really nice, very thorough. So basically the bottle came with this rubber stopper in it, and this brass cap was not on it but on the side, and it was fairly easy to remove this, so no problem there. So it came with a ink swatch, and then this napkin that it mentioned, and it's what it reminds me of is like an airline napkin. Yes, so that's that. Overall, I really like, I think to me the highlight here is the bottle design. I like all the information, the details that are provided. I like the rubber gasket, and I like the swatch card. I'm not terribly fond of this cork, and I would just assume, I think if you're going to include something that doesn't feel like an airline napkin. I think this can be helpful if you're, buying lists on the go and you need to use it, but it just doesn't really do it for me. So that's that. Okay, let's set this aside and let's go ahead and do some swatching. Now I'm going to want my bottle stable while I swatch and ink. And this is, what they've designed is definitely more stable than having it on the tabletop, that's for sure, with the indentation there. But for two things, I'm not very impressed with the cork. One, is it stable? More so, but not very. It's still quite wobbly, which I don't care for. But also, I don't like the aesthetic of these corks. So when I, received this, one of the first things I was inspired to do, other than ink it and swatch it, was to make, because I love making things, wood desk accessories of wood, a stabilizer for it, and that's what I did. So now I feel secure, and I am aesthetically pleased with the wood finish. So now let's go ahead and take this brass cap off, and let's ink it. So I've got a number 2 watercolor brush, and I have my Kakamori stainless steel dip nib, and I have a syringe because I'm going to squirt some ink on it. So let's go ahead. This feels kind of like cardstock, this paper, so it should be very absorbent. And I'm going to put a puddle of ink in this corner so that I can kind of see the contrast of it. Of kind of a high and low saturation. Put a little bit of ink drops on this. Oops, sorry. There you go. Just for a little fun. and we'll leave that to dry. Okay, then I have my coloring system that I like to keep track of all my inks. And I've set aside some inks that I'm interested in comparing to give you guys an idea of what this ink looks like in comparison to some other inks that are known. So in the writing that I've done with this ink, I've inked it in 2 pens. The first is my Stipula Etruria with a extra fine titanium nib, and that has worked very well. I find the ink flow generous without being too generous, so not too wet, to the point where it would like defeat having an extra fine nib, which is an issue I've had with some inks, namely with some diamides. There we go. And the other pen that I have inked it in, I'm going to go ahead and do it on this one too. The other pen I have inked it in is my Palette Falcon. Which has a soft fine nib that's been customized into a cursive italic. And that also, even when kind of giving some pressure to the nib for extra ink flow, has done very well. So in general, I have found it to be a very well-behaved ink with good flow and good wetness without being overly wet to where you can't control your finer nibs. Now, while those inks are drying, so I can show you the comparison between the papers and between some other inks that I have, let's play with this dancing bottle a little bit more. The reason it dances is because of that point on the bottom of the bottle. So what I found is, again, not so fond of the aesthetic look of the cork, but you know, this is what it's been designed to do, kind of a fiddling thing on your desk. So, and then, you know, the flip is for stabilization and for inking, and that's that. So I went ahead and I made some stabilizers out of solid wood to go with this vial. One for, in my opinion, improved stabilization, but also aesthetically, I just love wood desk accessories. So I have cherry, walnut, and maple. And I've been pleased with the stability of these and the aesthetic look of them also. And I'm kind of experimenting when you flip them over, right? On one I have put velvet. So this doesn't spin, it's more stable. It doesn't spin as much, I should say. And then on wood, it's definitely more spinny, even more so than the cork. But speaking for myself, if I was to want to sit at my desk and kind of fiddle with this, I like it best just flat on the desk with my leather mat, my leather writing mat, because then I'm not really worrying about, you know, knocking it off the little area that it's supposed to be resting on and that kind of thing. So if I was going to do it, that's what my inclination would be. I'd love your opinion of, you know, how you would like to use these yourself, if you would be tossing it to and fro, or if you prefer it just displayed on your desk. But without doubt, it's definitely a lovely design. It's to me, very reminiscent of the Ferris wheel press bottles as far as, you know, the brass goes and the aesthetic. Similar. I'm not, you know, they're obviously different. So that is that. These are available on my Webstore if you feel so inclined and interested. So let's go ahead and take a look at those those swatch. Okay, so the inks are dry now. This is the ink swatch I showed you previously. Here is the ink swatch that everything's dry except this little splatter. Was provided with the Alchemy ink. So here's the lower saturation area and there's the higher, so they can see. So if you have a drier pen that doesn't have as generous an ink flow, that's perhaps a color that you can expect, and then a more generous or broader nib would this one. Here is the swatch on the coloring. So what I really like about this red is that it's very well saturated. And even though it says it's a no sheen, you can see an ever so slight suggestion of sheening around the high saturation area. However, it's very unlikely, unless you're using like a very large pilot parallel, that you would, you know, be putting down enough ink to get any degree of sheen. And then there's that smaller swatch I did. And here are some colors that I want to compare it to. So here is Drops of Mars and Diamine Poinsettia. So this has a more pink undertone. J. Hervan Rouge Grenat. And that is quite similar. I would say that the Alchemy Drops of Mars has a bit more brightness and a little bit more saturation. Diamine Red Dragon. And likewise, I would say that as far as saturation goes, they're probably both on par, but a little bit more punch from the Alchemy Drops of Mars on this one. And then finally, my old standby for reds is Ferris Wheel Press Candy Marsala. And the Candy Marsala has a bit more of a mauve-y and less saturated red that almost leans a little bit on the orange side, kind of like a coppery color, compared to the Alchemy Drops of Mars. So with all that, I'm really happy to have this ink as part of my ink collection, and I'm really happy with the hue of it and the performance to this point, and I look forward to continue using it, especially in my red pens that complement these tones really well. So thank you for watching, and I'll put the links in the description below. enjoy your red inks. It's all up to you now, and I'll see you on the next one.